Hey, what's going on, Clipper people? It is me, William the Opinion Updike.
And I am positive Chuck Locklear.
And today we're talking about Thirsty Thursday. Every single Thursday, we talk about who and what we're thirsty for. This one is really about improvements for what the Clippers can do to improve the result from what they had in their matchup against the Timberwolves. And also, we took some Twitter Thursday questions just because we wanted to see where everybody was at, after that, the first play-in loss. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the schedule. So all that and more coming up right about now.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome to Locked On Clippers, coming at you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Make us your first listen. Let's kill some windshield time, and let's talk just kind of things we want to see on Friday between either the Pels or Spurs. Let's kind of get it out of the way first. I feel like Clipper fans are kind of torn on who they'd want to face. Right now, it feels like almost an even 50-50 split. Where are you at? Who do you want the Clippers to face?
For me, it's the Spurs.
Okay.
Still difficult team, well-coached team. I don't know, man. The Pels have just kind of body of work wise. I would say they've had our number all season, and that was prior to CJ McCollum being on the team. So I think that is definitely the matchup that I want less of the two.
That's fair. I think I want the Pels. Because I think last time we kind of showed when this team is kind of running what it's supposed to be, like what it actually will run, that we can beat them. I think you'd maybe try and make CJ just take all the shots and just have him kind of shoot them out of that game. And the Spurs, I mean, Murray's terrifying. He absolutely kills us on the defensive end. He kills us in transition every time we play. And I think the pop factor is big for me in this one, just because it is kind of a one-off, a game 7 yet again. I just get, that's pop. But I'm also like, I still feel like I could wake up tomorrow and say that I want to face the Spurs. It doesn't feel like damned if you, damned if you don't. But, I mean, we kind of struggle against both these teams in weird ways, I guess. And so I just want to see how that. I would rather have that play out against the Pels than the Spurs.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Also, correction, we did play against CJ McCollum in that victory versus the Pels. So that is my fault. I totally spaced on that. He had 19 points, 4 assists, 3 boards, 2 steals. So yeah, I don't know. Like, my thing with the Pels is just, it depends on how Brandon Ingram is moving. He was questionable coming into tonight's play-in game. They just have more top tier talent, which I think is like
fair point.
in a situation where
we saw it against the Wolves, 7, right?
In a situation like a game 7, that's what I am probably the most worried about.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that. We saw what top end talent can do when we played the Wolves. Cat fouls out, and then 2 other guys pick up the slack and then some. So, man, it's a tough call, absolutely. But no matter who we face on the Spurs or Pels, we're thirsty for some things we need to fix. And I think I want to start with some more ball movement. And I don't know if this is on the players, more so than it's on Ty. Maybe Reggie doesn't take as many shots, but this was something that felt like it was kind of lacking at some points versus the Wolves. And it might be a fatigue thing too. I don't know.
No, I agree. Both teams actually did have an identical amount of assists in that play-in game, which is interesting. But I think the thing there is that, it still was, I think it was around 17. It wasn't like a particularly high number. But yeah, I think one thing that I liked about this offense last season, when fully healthy, was the way that they did grind things out, like in the half court. They slower possessions, really using those seconds on the shot clock. But with Paul George not having the reps of a full season underneath him, and obviously with no Kawhi Leonard, I think those things kind of changed, and we did see an effort to speed things up offensively and also try to play a little bit better in transition. It didn't always go that well. But I think that so many times, even when we are moving the ball, I didn't always feel like we were finding the right guy in the best position
We'll see it
in that
peak
one.
sometimes with that, right? Like sometimes we'll see the ball zipping around and the guys will be getting paint touches and like Batum gets a wide open look or something like that, or it kicks it out to Reggie for like a semi-open look. But then it goes away and we see those droughts where it
Yeah.
just like, and some we'll talk about that in the next segment, but it just kind of is befuddling as to why it can just kind of crater so hard at some points. Like
Yeah,
kind of out
and
of
I mean,
nowhere.
we got to see some really great displays, especially when Norm first came back of,
Oh yeah.
sort of how that ball movement could look. So I'd like to see a return to that. I just, yeah, I don't know. We're limited for sure, and like in what we can do. And if a player isn't being particularly efficient, or isn't being efficient from deep, it's going to gum stuff up.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know. We've seen that, and then I think that people try to overcompensate because they're used to doing, what they had to do in the regular season. And I think, the heroics of that, which were great during the regular season, maybe lends itself to some bad habits with, a healthy, at least ish, Paul George
Yeah.
and Norman Powell.
Speaking of Norm Powell, he said he's ready to get more aggressive. On his night last night, he said 9 shots for a guy they look to generate offense and things is not enough. So really hyped on that. We're gonna kind of talk Norm, Reggie, and PG kind of next segment, but I love hearing that from Norm. 9 shots. I think we were all kind of like, why? He's been shooting the ball so well. Like,
Yeah.
to see it go to 9 was brutal. So I think part of that, and I like how he kind of put it on himself a little bit. I don't think it's all on Norm, obviously, but I hope he has his legs a bit more under him because he did. I mean, he looked a little tired in that second half in the fourth quarter. I don't mean that in like a calling him out way. It just, he's still kind of getting back up to what
It is
playoff
what it is.
basketball
I
is like.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it is what it is. I mean, he didn't play for a little over a month, and then your conditioning is not going to be at that level. It just won't be. That's just not how things work.
And then thirsty for Luke Kennard to be back. We're waiting on a timeline for this. He didn't travel with the team to Minnesota. Per some scuttlebutt from last Sunday, Luke was going to have a pretty prominent role, or will have a prominent role this postseason. Yeah, the injury report's going to come out the day you're listening to this at like 5 p.m. So keep an eye out for that for sure. Will, what about the other side of the ball?
We didn't make a big enough deal
Of Luke?
Of Luke
Yeah.
being gone,
I'll
because
take that.
I mean, like,
I'll put that on my shoulders.
it was
yeah.
because that was one of those losses that, essentially as soon as I saw it, it was an oh no kind of moment. We know how clutch of a player Luke Kennard has been in
Right.
high leverage moments for this team. And I mean, honestly, he's been at times, sort of a fix all or a remedy for those long droughts that we can see this offense get into. And I mean, you add,
he's clutch as hell too. Like, that's just nice to have on the floor.
And you add Luke into some of those like smaller or stranger lineups. And I just can't help but think that, maybe you're looking at a different result, although he would get picked on the defensive end. There are some guys who can kind of cover for him in that sense. But yeah, we definitely could have used his shooting and scoring. But speaking of the defense, like, a couple of things. I mean, like, it's got to get tightened up. I mean, we can't allow, we can't allow the sort of like paint looks that the Timberwolves were able to get, especially late in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the rebounding is the big issue. Chuck, which one of these do you want to talk about first?
Honestly, let's talk about where we can bet online and then take it to the next break, because I have substantial thoughts, I think, on the defense. We mentioned bet online. Would you bet on the Clippers winning rebounds against the Pels or Spurs on Friday? Yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Well, you can absolutely not bet on that. Over at Bet Online, your number one source for all betting, stats, and sports info. You can find the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of Major League Baseball season. Hope you didn't bet on Kershaw to have a perfect game today, because you were oh so close. Bet Online is your continued source for all your sporting wagering info, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about the trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts.
All right, so we're talking about the defense.
Yes.
Main issues, obviously, we got to get sorted out is the rebounding and sort of getting stops, especially in high leverage moments and preventing paint penetration. What do you think, Chuck? Where can we adjust this defense? How can we improve these rebounding issues?
So our guy Arno Madathian, shout out Arno. He wants to know what about starting. He wants to ask starting Norm and putting Morris to the bench. But my counter to this is start Rocco over Morris instead of starting Norm over Morris, because I like Norm off the bench.
All right, so my argument for this is the same. I think that it's been all season, which is that
continuity matters.
I mean, a little bit.
It's
yeah.
fair.
And
no, I see the other side.
Is Norm's conditioning ready to start?
I don't think so.
That is my question about that. And then the Rocco thing. So here's the thing with that. I think at that point you're assuming that Isaiah Hartenstein is not going to play. And I'm not saying
he
that
only got
that's
7 minutes last game.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but like that's the pairing in that front court that I think that you need in a high leverage game to make that work defensively.
Right. That's fair.
You can't really pair that with anybody else. Maybe Nick Batum. But if he's in the starting lineup, that's too much to ask.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be my only thing with not starting Rocco. Although I am all in favor of, if things aren't working, that first shift in being some combination of Norm and Rocco.
Yeah,
Norm
I like that
or
idea.
Rocco. And as I've said, because I'm not saying that this definitely wouldn't work or anything. Like my thing has been with this team and like the type of versatile wings and guys that we have is that like I don't care who the starting lineup is. I think it's gotten to a point where I do want Zoo to be in that starting lineup. You need a guard, so it's probably going to be Reggie,
sure,
and Paul George. But other than that,
the three and the
two
four,
wings.
yeah.
Tell me two wings. Tell me a guard and a wing. I can. There's definitely a way that I can see it working in my mind. But those would be my only sort of drawbacks or like qualms with maybe, making an alteration in the starting lineup in what is essentially a game 7.
Right.
With the Clippers season on the line.
Because that's what's tough too. And we got a question kind of about the lineup stuff is like people were, kind of losing their minds yesterday on Twitter. Rightfully so. I'm not going to pretend that it was partly didn't make any sense. But people are talking about changing like 2 of the 3 starters or 2 of the 5 starters. I'm like, that just seems drastic a little bit. Changing 1, sure, I can be convinced. Changing 2 seems a little kind of big. But the rebounding issue, I don't know how this gets fixed for the Clippers. Sorry for the hard pivot. But, Morris had 0 last game in 31 minutes, which is like kind of baffling. Do we think this is maybe a more Terrence Mann thing? Like, not in terms of like this is Terrence Mann's fault, but like, do we need more Terrence Mann to help our bigs a little bit? Or are we just kind of not abandoning the glass, but not making it a priority?
Well, I don't know, man. We need to make it a
That's
priority.
What I mean.
I thought that was a huge factor for the Timberwolves. Gave them a lot of energy, and it just wears down a defense. Even when you're getting those extra possessions.
Yeah,
I think they had 5 extra offensive rebounds, which is like, man, that's almost like 2.5 minutes of extra game time. That's just
great
them
call.
on offense. Or it's not that much. It's less than that, but you get what I'm saying. I'm not good with the maths, with the mental maths. So yeah, it's got to get fixed. I know Morris having 0 is kind of baffling. We've talked about some of like his kind
not
of
like he puts up a
numbers.
bunch usually, but 0 is just kind of like, all right.
Yeah. It's almost like a guard who rebounds above average would be really helpful on this team.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as fixed, I think the best you can do is like plug some holes in the the leaky ship,
and that's where
it's been an issue. It's been an issue all season. I have no real reason to believe that it's going to be quote unquote fixed by the next game.
And that's where I think kind of the Pels scare me a little bit. Is on the glass.
Yeah. Both both teams for sure, but the Pels definitely. Yeah, and it's just like it's defensively, it's a harder challenge.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, this offense just, it is what it is at this
It
point,
stalls
and
sometimes.
yeah, what it is, has, it's struggled, and it struggled even earlier in the season with Paul George in the
Yeah.
lineup, and like, I think that we got some things figured out, especially on that second unit, but yeah, man, those kind of issues were always there, and when your roster is built around 2 stars and you only have one of them,
Yeah.
it's
Some of
definitely
the
going to
time.
change the mechanics of that, and especially when you then lose, one of your most valuable shooters, like one of your most valuable kind of offensive chess pieces. Yeah, it's tough.
So, getting into these Twitter Thursday questions, Clipper Spencer wants to know how we can prevent these long scoring droughts that have killed us all year. And I think we just got to wait on Reggie Norman PG to kind of get it worked out. They've had no time together. And I think we're kind of hoping a little bit to capture lightning in a bottle as fast as we can with these three.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's just so tough is, like, maybe more Terrence Mann minutes come, like, not in the starting lineup, but with that second
Yeah,
unit, so you
into
can
that.
not have to overlap Reggie quite so much,
Sure.
because I think that this trio probably would have looked a little bit better if Reggie had not played, 40, almost 42 minutes in that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, fresh Reggie
Y
really does help this trio
it
out a
it
lot.
it's just a lot, and we know what Reggie can do late game. It's just sort of like all the wear and tear of the season is definitely caught up. And it's with a day of rest, it's not really something that's like gonna necessarily completely turn around.
Yeah, and hopefully, we get aggressive Norm because that will take the load off tired Reggie, which is great.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And when we saw him, like getting to the rim, getting to the paint, being aggressive, that definitely is a boost and a lift for this offense. Where at times, even when the ball is moving, we get into that thing where it's just feels kind of like lateral and not like we're
Flat.
really
Yeah,
advancing. Yeah.
for sure.
And I think like being able to find those driving lanes and actually blow by guys, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Because tired Reggie isn't really like blowing by guys like we know that he can do. That is definitely that's just definitely the key. It's just going to be being aggressive, getting into the paint,
Yeah,
and then
paint touches, good things
hope.
happen.
Yeah, and hoping our shooters knock down the threes that they get, which they did last game.
Yep.
They did
It's just the
at a
twos.
very efficient rate. Yeah.
It's just those dang twos. Tom Seismansky asks, will T-Man gobble up some Reggie minutes so we can get his edge and energy and also keep Reggie fresh for potential clutch time? So I feel like you just answered that. And then also, can we not play PG 41 minutes? Looked absolutely gassed the last few possessions. I'm going to say something that Tom is not going to want to hear. We have to play PG 41 minutes or 40.
Yeah.
We can't. Think of the slander that would happen if PG played less than 35 minutes or something like that. We should play PG 40 minutes. Like, I know it sucks, but if we want to win this game, we need to close it out. 10-point leads are nothing in today's NBA. Like, we need him out there and let's throw it by 35.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's one of those things. I mean, that's his preference. Like,
Yeah.
he wants to win this game. And, we said in the preview last game, like, I thought that last game was definitely our best shot. We could throw everything that we possibly have.
Yeah.
And I think that we saw that, we saw it be real effective for like 36 minutes, maybe.
Sure. And then Cat fell out.
Yeah, more effective than not for like almost 36 minutes. And then not. And this though, like this is your absolute last ditch. Yeah, it's like you're going down if you don't land this one. So I think I think an expectation of Paul George to play 35 minutes or less is probably not realistic.
Yeah. And Pete
but I do appreciate the concern.
Well, and guys looking gassed.
And I do like the idea of T-Man gobbling up some Reggie.
Yes, also on board with that. And if you're not used to guys looking gassed at this point, it's going to happen because when the Clippers win on Friday, they play on Sunday. So, like, our guys are going to be tired. It's brutal. Cameron Dwinfree asks, will Ty give Powell and Roka more minutes, especially in late game situations on Friday, over Reggie and Morris? If they ain't as productive and you get a feeling they need to be taken out for us to hold on to a late lead and win the game. I don't think it's going to be over those two. I think it's going to be with those two.
Mm.
I think there's going to be.
Well, I mean, that's not really in the spirit of what the question is.
Right.
The question
But
is asking, like, if you have a Sophie's choice between Reggie and Morris or Powell and Rocco, I mean, like, if it's effective, I think given, the body of work, once again, of Ty Lue, we know the answer to that.
oh, yeah. If
right?
it's going well, he's
If
going to spam whatever's going well.
if it's going to work, then he will go to it. But I think that you're right in, like the assumption that more likely than not, you're going to see some combination of these four guys. Maybe you bump Morris for Batum.
Sure. Maybe you just add
And
Batum.
the thing with Reggie, though, like the thing with Reggie is who else? Like, who else do you really want running the point, like in a clutch scenario? And like,
other than Paul George, there's no other option.
You could say Paul George, but I still think that you want another option out there
for sure. Well, his individual scoring ability needs to be out there, right? Like that's what's helped carry the Clippers this season. It hasn't been pretty every time, but same with Morris, right? Like Morris has been leaned on all year, and we've leaned on him all year to score and to do these things. And now in the playoffs, that's just not going to go away. And it shouldn't go away. It's just the extremes with these guys are tough.
That's a very valid point. Both of these guys, have had so much on their shoulders throughout the whole season, and it in a game 7,
game 8 or whatever the hell it is at this
point, scenario. I think you make a great point. That's probably not going anywhere.
Coming up, we're going to be answering some more kind of philosophical Clippers fan questions on Twitter Thursday. But first, Will, if I was in the market for some sick independent sunglasses, where could I get those?
Oh, you got to check out Shady Rays. Shady Rays. Yeah. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed, durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' insane protection program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Whoa. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not going to tell you.
Just
get me the new. I'm not going to say where they're lost to. So just give them a try. If you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. That's 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews.
All right, welcome to Shavings, where we just kind of wrap up all the other random things happening in the Clippers verse. We got a couple more questions here. Black Sub-Zero 24 wants to know, is the season a failure if we miss the playoffs? If we do, how high will the basketball gods make the pick we owe OKC jump? Will it be Kyrie part 2? I don't think it'll be like that.
That's a great question.
I really hope.
No, that's a very valid point of, like wanting to ensure that those picks aren't going to be, something that really, really hurts. But, the truth of the matter is there's no way to account for that. You assume when you make a massive deal for Kawhi and Paul George that you will likely be in the playoffs.
Theoretically.
Every year that those two are on the court together. So yeah, it's a bummer. It hurts. I will not think of it as a failure.
It's really hard to see it as a failure in my eyes. Like,
look, my thing is like with a healthy Paul George all season, I thought
I said 4 seed.
We were probably 5. We were probably like 5 at the the best case scenario. In that kind of mix. We didn't have him since December.
A lot.
We didn't have him a lot. And so, we fell 3 places beyond what like kind of my highest projections probably were for this team. So I would say that's pretty darn good, especially given, where people's outlook was on the Clippers, even with Paul George.
Right.
And just, the thing is like, it's really hard to not get caught up or feel a little bit burned, especially about these last couple of games, that Timberwolves one especially like did hurt, but like looking back to this season, man, you gotta think about all the you gotta think about all the development that happened for these guys. Like these guys were empowered to lift this team over like multiple crazy deficits,
25-point comebacks, like
essentially, like have the keys to the car and just go. And there were nights where like they were having to figure it out, in game in these scenarios. And I think that, like while you'll hear me talk about playoff reps and the importance of that on this show all the time, I still think that, what they did throughout this regular season is something that can carry over to next season.
100%.
And I think like that, like fight and drive and the identity that the other guys on this team found, that the rotation guys on this team found, it is already valuable. I just don't see how it couldn't be. Unless one of the, whatever. I'm not even going to.
Let's not even talk about what ifs with this roster.
I'm not going to talk about the what ifs, but I just don't. There's no way that you could sell to me that wasn't valuable.
Yeah, and if someone does think this season is a failure, I don't really want to hear why, because it's all kind of reasons where it's just like, sure, yeah, I guess if that would have happened, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be hard to convince me. Literally, PG, who I don't think this is actually Paul George, asked, Ty Lue and Reggie and Morris equal Doc Rivers and Montrezl Harrell? Hard no on this one. Not really how that works at all. But I don't know. Do you want to expand on this?
No, I these to me are completely different scenarios.
Two of these guys are starters that we had to use all year because our stars were out. One of them was a bench guy.
I mean, that's the thing. I think that so much of the Ty Lue and like the reliance that he's had to put on these guys has firmly been because of how forced his hand has been.
Yeah.
It's not like. I mean, who are the two options for these guys that are like the glaring replacements?
Yeah.
That were on the roster of this team that you're like, oh, well, these guys could have done, 3/5 of that and maybe done something else better.
And if you put it in context of the playoffs, like the play-in was a snapshot of not how Ty Lue messed up with using them. It's how the roller coaster is. Right? Yeah. Like it was, we know that Reggie's.
There were some questionable lineups.
There were questionable lineups, but the questionable lineups weren't why are Reggie and Morris out there most of the time. We went too small with Reggie and Morris and Norm and I think it was Terrence and PG. Like that was kind of crazy. But in our small ball lineups, like Morris out there, that's why we're Wingstop, right? Like that's why we have that nickname. And I don't see, we're not blowing a 3-1 lead because of these two guys, like in this sense. I think, it's a funny question, to send after a loss and things like that, but we need to rely on these guys. And it's hard to switch out if you're these two, probably from kind of deferring a little bit more to maybe Norm or something like that. But we just got to ride with it. If Reggie makes 3 more shots or 2 more shots and Morris makes 1, we're not having this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that is what it is, like that's the game, right?
Loyal Clipper fan asks, why do they make me so sad? This one made me laugh.
Fair, Loyal Clipper fan.
Because you care. It's because you care. And that's good.
Because you care. Look, like, I don't know. 29 other teams, didn't get what is the one objective or whatever of the season.
Sure. Every year.
So
an average of one team a year, only one team a year wins the championship.
Yeah. So it's difficult. And I mean, yes, things have been harder for Clippers fans, like assuredly. Yeah, of course. No problem there. And this season, I think the thing that's been hard about this season, or that's made me sadder maybe than some other seasons, has just been like, every time I think I know, like I think I know where we're at. I think I know what's going on. We get like some little grain of hope or like some little like bullshit like golden coin or something that seems
And
like,
it
oh
jams
wow,
up
now
the gears of
now,
everything.
yeah, and it's like, oh wow, maybe now this is all like gonna come together and it's all gonna, like lift up into this like this next thing that I didn't think it was gonna be able to be. But then you're right, it just kind of ends like it just jams up the gear. And I'm not saying that like that's Paul George or Norm. I'm just saying in a figurative sense.
Sure.
Like every time I'm like, I think I know what this team is. Like I think I know where we're going. I can set my expectations and I can rationally and normally deal with like what that's going to be. And then it's, and then you get the report like, oh, Kawhi, these are some pretty explosive box jumps, buddy. And then, I feel like as up and down as, Reggie and Morris have been, that's like what my expectations have been on this season. And it's not
Very
fair to put on this team, given like what they actually had. And yeah, it's hard to. I feel like this was a really difficult season to try to taper your expectations as a fan.
Of course, yeah. We hope loyal Clipper fans doing okay. Shout out for being loyal Clipper fan. That about wraps things up for this Thursday episode. We got some potential scheduling issues coming up. Look, when the Clips win on Friday, they'll play Sunday versus the Suns. That's a nice little Easter weekend. We both have family in town, so we'll be bringing you these same episodes on the regular schedule Monday through Friday. However, Friday's episode, tomorrow, Joseph Rye Ward himself finally accepts our invitation to join the pod, and we talk what we got to do against the Pels or the Suns. We're for sure playing a Love Mary quarantine, and we'll bring you the news of whatever else happens between now and then in Clipperland. Will, if someone wanted to sound off in the reviews, where could they possibly do that for this podcast?
Oh, please sound off. You can review us over on Apple Podcasts or the podcast app on your mobile device. We're also on Spotify that's on any device you have, desktop,
Any device,
typewriter,
Kindle,
mobile, Kindle, tin can. So yeah, you can review us at either one of those places. You can listen to us obviously there. We're also on Google Podcasts. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Stitcher. We're on Deezer. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can listen to this show. We mentioned up top, but we do commit you Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Pacific. Hey, look, I mean, the season is coming down to this one game.
We got it.
You stuck with us this long. We got one more.
Absolutely.
We got this.
We absolutely do. I have been positive, Chuck Mockler.
And I am William the Opinion Updike. And as always, we appreciate you.